We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Back in the saddle, baby. We're in the same clothes. Recording these things back to back. We're gonna start with the AFC North.
I just
AFC
wore the
North.
same clothes 2 days in a row.
Yeah,
I was like you on the draft.
Hey. So can we talk about that? Let's start with this story here. Let's start with this story. So Sweat Taylor, big shout out to Sweat Taylor. That was awesome. They dressed us for all fucking 4 days. It was sick. I wore obviously the Steve Jobs turtleneck first day. Yeah. Unknowingly, I didn't know it was gonna fit that tight around the neck. I think someone said I looked like here's the best comments from the show. I look like 5 different Guess Who characters. That's sensational.
That one was perfect.
That's sensational. I still
you had
look
like a lot of like very unique identifiers, not very unique, unique identifiers.
Yeah, you can't modify unique.
Can't modify unique.
Got the glasses, the mustache, the Steve Jobs turtle. I got compared to Freddie Mercury a ton.
Yeah, a little bit of that.
Some people the Freddie Mercury, American-born Freddie Mercury. Steve Jobs.
I like the French novelist.
The French novelist, yeah. The French murder mystery writer was another one that I really liked. So, okay, I wore the black turtleneck day 1. Day 2, I was able to slip in the Army color green hoodie, which I thought was a nice piece. Mm-hmm. Then on day 3, I said, I'm hosting. It's time to bring out the big guns. I bring back out the turtleneck because the turtleneck was just such a conversation starter. And then day 4, one of our producers says, hey, you got to wear light on camera. It looks a lot better on camera. Everyone was wearing dark as hell on the day before. Let's go light. Everyone brings in the same shirt from Sweat Taylor. Everyone brings in the gray
one.
So everyone from the producers' feedback's like, oh, we'll all wear gray. Well, I'll just bring my gray one. We all show up like we're all in fucking gray looking like idiots. So then I had to go back on the black turtle.
See, my highlight was Friday. So Friday night we end like pretty late. It was like the long day, and like midnight 1:30. I go back home. Actually, I went to Clutch for a second, then I went back home.
You're
and
fucking
then
savage.
Came back to the office because we had to do an 8 a.m. radio hit. And I just roll in and like you're like sound asleep on the couch. I'm like, oh fuck, what happened last night to you?
Dude, well, I was up till like 4 or 5 a.m. that night trying to get stuff up on the site, and then there's no blankets in the office, so I sleep on the couch in the office, and I end up like sleeping with the Sweat Taylor clothes as my blanket. So I had the hoodie on, and then I had the black turtle as my blanket.
And
it was
you know
a disaster.
How you can tell when someone's not gotten any sleep? Like you could tell from that first radio show. I'm like, oh man, you are.
I was done.
Yeah.
I'm always like here, and then when the lack of sleep hits, I like somehow slow down.
I'm like, dude, you just like need to go to bed. Like I was like, nap something. But
dude, it was tough. And then so after that radio show from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Sirius, we ended up doing the fucking 8 hours of draft coverage on day 3. Live. My brain was literally spaghetti noodles by the back end. Our producer was like, dude,
chili.
Like the producer Jerry Madelon, big shout out to our producer. He's like texting me. He's like, dude, you're tired. You need to calm the fuck down. Because like, here's the thing. When I get tired, it's not like I'm like lethargic or anything. Yeah. My brain just unravels. It's just like I end up saying a bunch of dumb shit and I just turn into a mashed potato brain, and it was tough. But let's get to the AFC. I'm less sleep deprived now. We're going on to the AFC. We're going to do draft grades and AFC team previews for all of the teams in the AFC, starting with the AFC North and specifically the Pittsburgh Steelers, who grabbed Najee Harris, the Alabama running back, at 24. Then they grabbed Pat Freiermuth at 55 out of Penn State. And then obviously Kendrick Green in the 3rd. Your thoughts on their top 3 picks there?
It's just the first one's the tough one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know what grade we ended up giving it, but it's just we don't have to harp on it too much. But Najee Harris running back the first one, we're just not going to get aboard.
We gave it a poor grade according to the draft tracker.
Yeah. So that's the pick I would have changed. My favorite pick, probably the Kendrick Green one. He was 68th on the PFF draft board. They got him 87th overall. I think he steps in and starts at center right away. They don't have a ton of options. I'm not sure he's necessarily going to be exceptional right away. Still a little bit of athletic-ish project, but I think he's close enough. The pick I would change, the Najee one, obviously they're not so solid at other positions.
Specifically offensive line,
but also cornerback that I would have passed on Greg Newsome there. Greg Newsome, I think, great team fit. And I just think you're going to have to, go up against the AFC. And it's teams that sling the fucking rock. And you got to stop them with a good secondary. Now you got maybe Justin Lane potentially starting on the outside. Not that we didn't like Justin Lane coming out. I think he was like 50th or so on the PFF draft board. But damn, I would have liked an upgrade there.
Draft class grade, according to PFF, was a C. They grabbed Dan Moore Jr. in the 4th, off the tackle at Texas A&M. Buddy Johnson, also out of Texas A&M, the linebacker. I like the Quincy Roche pick at round 6. Quincy Roche at least has some good tape. He's not like that level of athlete, but still in the 6th, I think that's a good pick. I was also watching a lot of Alex Highsmith last night. That dude actually works some cross chop that I thought he was trying there. He had a couple inside moves and then just spin. There's a spin move against the Colts where he just dumps this offensive tackle. He has a variety of moves that I think, man, going into year 2.
They're still going to have top 3 D-line. Pretty easily.
His bend is also nuts. I really like how Alex Highsmith can turn the corner a little bit, man. I'm excited about Alex Highsmith. Charlotte guy who was also interviewed on 2-for-1 Drafts. Make sure you're listening in to 2-for-1 Drafts. Rate, review, and subscribe. All right.
If they're listening, they're listening.
If you're listening now, rate, review, and subscribe.
Okay.
If you're watching on YouTube, go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe.
You told the people to listen in, which they're literally already doing. That's what I'm trying to say.
Do you want me to jump over this table and punch you?
I'd rather you didn't. We're doing a podcast, buddy. Let's go.
All right. Jumping now to...
You keep missing the win totals.
Fuck.
8.5.
8.5. You got me fucking sidetracked.
God, this one's tough. This is maybe the best division in football.
Yes.
So I think under. I just think they're
plus 400 to win the division.
They're behind the Ravens comfortably. They're behind the Browns comfortably in terms of how good I feel about them going into this year.
I might like the Bengals more than them.
Oh,
I don't know, Jim. I don't know.
I don't like the Bengals more than them. I'll just say that.
Okay.
But
what's the line for Bengals finish with more wins than the Steelers? You want to make a bet right now? I'll bet you right now. $50.
What do you want? I actually really don't want to bet that, but
even odds. Bengals win more games than the Steelers. $50.
Okay, $50. Bet.
Deal. Bang.
Their offensive line just stinks though. You got Zach Banner starting at right tackle and Chukwuma Okorafor starting at left tackle. And Alejandro Villanueva just got signed by your division rival, Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, that's true.
Just dick punch.
So you're going under 8.5.
I'm going under 8.5.
Fair enough. All right, let's jump now to the Baltimore Ravens, who had an absolutely stellar draft. I love what the Ravens did, man. They had you did the mock draft the day before, the day of, with the Baltimore Ravens taking Rashad Bateman at 27 and Jason Owe, now Odafe Owe, at 31. They do it. They take him at 27 and 31. And then also after that, Ben Cleveland at 94. I loved Tylan Wallace at 131. I'm on the Shaun Wade train at 160. I think that was a good pick as well. The Baltimore Ravens draft grade according to PFF, B+. I think it could have gone higher. I really like what the Ravens did.
Yeah, Ben Cleveland, perfect fit for their scheme too. We're drafting a guard that can fucking move the line.
Built like a fucking Adonis. Yeah. Dude's insane.
So, yeah, ticking boxes with Bateman, Odafe Owe. Cleveland, like what they did. The Brandon Stevens pick, so the no top 100 pick I would have changed there. The Brandon Stevens pick, straight up, we didn't get to him. Fucking like cornerback from SMU who had a coverage grade in the 50s. But he's a high-level athlete. That's why they drafted him there. And then even on day 3, some picks I liked in the getting the best pure fullback in class, Ben Mason. And you like the Shaun Wade one. So a good all-around draft. I'm not sure this pumps me over 10.5 wins for them, but
10.5's a lot.
But fan of what they did, obviously.
What's your opinion? What is the real Lamar Jackson?
I think Owe's my favorite pick for them also.
Okay.
That's what I'll say. Yeah.
Lamar Jackson, former MVP. Some people are hating on him. I work with the social media team a ton. Anytime we tweet out anything on Lamar Jackson, there is a ton of people who are like, he's awful. Where are you at with Lamar Jackson? Because they're gonna have to be figuring out where they're at, because they're gonna have to either extend him. Obviously, he's gonna get the extension. He's an MVP.
Obviously,
maybe not obviously. So talk to me. Where are you at with Lamar Jackson?
I wouldn't extend him.
Holy shit!
I mean, his value is near on par with the running back in terms of like.
Okay, what are you saying right now?
In terms of not value, his lifespan, like at the position. Like the reason that offense cooks is because he is as dynamic as he is as a runner. That won't last until you're 35. Like that. Will it? I don't think so. Like it will be a little longer because he's not taking as many hits as a running back is. But if he does get hurt, injuries are more likely to occur the more hits you're taking. So I wouldn't give him a long-term extension. Because
what about this year? Can you prove that wrong? Could he show up this year and earn a long-term extension from you?
He's never been that as a passer. So I would continually with him franchise. I like use the 5th year, then use the franchise, maybe a second one, and then that's probably it. Like the guy's going to be into his late 20s, and then the injury risk then at that point with how much he is utilized in the running game, it's just going to be high.
All right, man. Well, you're going no pick on the over-under for the Baltimore Ravens, or are you going to go under? Sound like you just want to kill Lamar Jackson. You hate him. I think Lamar Jackson's better than how you phrase that. And I do think that while maybe he won't be that player until he's 35, he could be that player until he's 30. I don't think he's that old. Like a 3-4 year extension, like he's only going to put him back in his 20s.
Not to put RG3 on him, but it's like one injury that limits you. You're toast. So
where are you going with their win total?
I'm gonna say no pick on the 10.
No pick on the 10.5. Wow, what a fucking loser. All right, let's go to. I'm gonna go. I don't have a pick either, honestly. 10.5 is tough. I mean, when you're betting on high win totals, it's tough. Like you're dealing with a lot of injury variance and stuff. So I do think that I'm a little nervous on the 10.5. All right, Cleveland Browns. You love their draft. You've loved their offseason. You love Andrew Berry. You're ready to move to Cleveland at this point. You gave them an A+ draft grade. They grabbed Greg Newsome at 26, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah at 52, James Hudson at 110, Tommy Togiai at 132. I mean, man, they just. And they grabbed Marvin Wilson as an undrafted free agent. Obviously, that doesn't really super impact this draft grade, but man, they've done a lot of really positive things in the draft. And then going back to what they did in free agency, I think the Javion Clowney signing was good. The John Johnson signing, good. Like they continue to make play. Troy Hill, a good decision. Like this Cleveland Browns team is legit. Like legit. If Baker Mayfield can maintain what he was last year, if not slightly improve, they are a legitimate Super Bowl contender.
Over 10. You're
going over 10 wins.
Over 10.
This could be an 11, 12 win team on a 17-game season.
This is, on paper, the best roster in the NFL. It's on paper the best
ahead
roster.
Of Tampa Bay?
Just look at their offensive line, wide receiving core.
I put it on paper number 2. On paper
Odell,
number
2. Okay. I mean, it's pretty incredible.
It's good. It's really good. I think it's top 3 roster easily. Number 2 is probably where I'd put it.
Jadeveon Clowney, Denzel Ward. As many safeties as they have.
Depth on the interior, too. I like their defensive line.
Possibly Tampa Bay better. But it is right there. It's legitimately right there. And then what they did in this draft was exceptional. And obviously then it hinges on Baker Mayfield and how he develops. But, man, they're very good. Not a lot of holes on this team. And they added 2 valuable positions in, like, coverage linebacker, cover corner. And then the Schwartz pick's the one where it's like, pick 91. Rare dude and what he brings to the table with maybe the fastest player in the NFL right now. So I can see how that would.
You think he's faster than Tyreek?
He broke the youth 100-meter record when he was in high school. So
I'd like to see them race.
So he could be up there. Ascending sort of prospect in that he's only 20, has that level of speed, really raw to the position. So we'll see what you get, but can't coach 4.27. So I would have got Darden there. That's probably the one I would have changed if you really want that guy. Darden, I think, brings a lot of the same elements with a little bit more polish, but splitting hairs. Love the draft, man.
Cincinnati Bengals up next. You said you're going over the 10. I'm going to go over the 10 with you like that. Cincinnati Bengals on the books next year. We like their draft as well. I mean, a lot of people hated on the Jamar Chase pick. But Jamar Chase at 5, then they grabbed Jackson Carman after a trade down at 46, and then Joseph Osai, the Texas edge, at 69. We gave their draft grade a B.
Yeah, I was fine with 1, 2, 3, just compared to the PFF draft board. Jamar Chase, they got pick 5. He was 6th on the draft board. Carman, they got a 46. He was 48th on the draft board. Osai, they got 69. He was 60th on the draft board. So it's just like they drafted the guys where we would have drafted them, which that's a good draft.
Yep.
Carman, I think he was one of the best candidates to start at guard of these tackles. in this class to start at guard early in his career and can maybe develop into a tackle. I think that's a great landing spot then for him. Cincinnati, I'm not sure this vaults them to contender status. I still have massive question marks about this defense, linebacker position there, but and their DC. But it's a good draft. It is and I love the Tyler Shelvin pick, 122, getting a true space eating nose tackle there. That's where we draft him. Oh, my watch, brutal.
What's your opinion of the Deontay Smith pick?
I mean, where'd they get him? 139. Little like he's a project tackle, and that's where you draft project tackles. So fourth round, you don't draft them in the third, you don't draft them in the second, because projects at tackle are very much crapshoots no matter how physically gifted those dudes are.
Looking at the pick-by-pick grades on PFF's draft tracker, Jamar Chase, an elite grade. Jackson Carman, above average. Joseph Asai, above average. Cameron Sample, very good, who had an outstanding Senior Bowl, by the way. Tyler Shelvin, above average. Like, they made some really good picks. I mean, they really like what they've done all the way down. What's your opinion of this? I was watching a lot of A.J. Brown last night, and I kept seeing, I like the comparison to Jamar Chase. Like a lighter Jamar Chase, like a lighter A.J. Brown, that he just wins with physicality. Like A.J. Brown's like separation ability when you watch him on tape this past year, it's not like elite. It's not like elite. You know, there's times where like guys who are trying to bully him can get at the catch point, but he's very physical, wins with physicality. I do think A.J. Brown, 6'1", 225. And Jamar Chase is like 6', 202 in that range. Like a lighter A.J. Brown. It's a similar play style at the very least. Like I think they play similarly.
Yeah, 20 pounds, such a massive difference.
Yeah, it's
between
huge.
Body types where it's like they really are different. Yeah. So.
But I feel like how they approach the position is similar. Like they both try and win with physicality. They're both really good after the catch. I think that's got underrated in the Jamar Chase conversation about what he can do after the catch. They also got one of your favorite running backs in this class, Chris Evans at 202.
Hell yeah, dude. That was a great pickup for me. He's very similarly tooled, skilled to a Joe Mixon. Yeah, so great back to spell Joe Mixon.
All right, Indianapolis Colts, they're over under set or where do we want to go with the Bengals? 6.5 wins. I'm going over.
We're going over 6.5.
Let's go, baby. That's for Mike Quinn. That's for Mike Quinn. All right, Indianapolis Colts, their pick grade, we gave them a C+. Plus
the Burrow factor.
Yeah.
Year 2 of Burrow, I think he's going to be very good.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be very good. That's why this division, that's why I say the Steelers, it's tough at 8.
I was grinding the tape last night, Mike. I was watching a lot of T. Higgins as well. So I was watching Brown, Higgins. I watched some Alex Highsmith. But Higgins is interesting. You turn on the tape and you see a lot of times where Burrow, man, he's throwing some lollies. That arm talent shows up a handful of times. Yeah. But what you did see, like some of that out of structure stuff, I think was very good. He had a very good, scramble connection with T. Higgins a handful of times. And I do think that the accuracy, like the ball placement, continued to show up. But the biggest area to improve for Joe Burrow, in my opinion, is the deep accuracy. Like it was not the same level as what it was at LSU. And I think that comes with chemistry. Like
comfort.
Fitting. Derek Carr talked a ton about this a few years ago with Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper. Before that season, he had that MVP caliber season when he broke his leg and all that stuff. Like chemistry on the deep ball matters. Like having that chemistry with Cooper and Crabtree in 2016 was huge. And I think you see, like regardless of arm talent, like if you're going to hit consistently with Higgins and Boyd and these guys down the football field and Chase, like you need that chemistry, and he's going to have it with Chase. He already had some of it with Higgins. Boyd now entering, year 4, year 5 of his career. Like I think this deep actually improves just with being on the football field more with these guys.
But also, it is difficult when you don't have a strong arm to be consistently accurate deep. Because if you think about it from this perspective, it's like you're putting a 50-yard pass, you're putting everything you got into it. If you're a guy like Burrow, a guy like Mac Jones. If you are a guy like Trey Lance, that's just a flick. Like that's not everything you got. And so it's like a wedge shot in golf. If you're pulling your wedge all the way back, but you're not supposed to take full swings with wedge shots. You're supposed to not go. It's easier to control when you're going 75% on those. But when you're taking a full swing with the wedge shot, your distance control will suffer. So weak arms are difficult to consistently.
But his deep actually at LSU was so good. It was the best in the country. Like what he did, and I think a lot of that again was just like experience with those guys. Like I do think that matters. I know his arm talent's not going to get objectively better in 2021, but what's going to get better is obviously his experience and hopefully this offensive line to hold up. So when he is making that deep ball, he's not under pressure. Our Indianapolis Colts, their draft grade a C+. Kwity Paye, the first edge on PFF's draft board, they take him at 21. Then they grab another edge out of Vandy, Dayo Odeyingbo at 54. After that, man, I don't love this draft, dude. I think after Kwity Paye, I don't love this draft. I think Dayo might have even been a reach at 54. I don't love what the Colts did. You gave them, though, a C+.
Yes.
This could have been a flat C for me.
The pay one's fine. Fine with that pick. Odeyingbo one is odd. Now, he's a talented dude. Don't get me wrong. But coming off an Achilles, which is a massive injury for an explosive position. And for a guy at that size, you got no assuredness there that he's going to be the guy we saw before that. And you've really thrown a lot of resources at edge now, especially in the second round. Just the past 3 drafts prior to this, you had Terrell Basham in the third, Kamoko Toure, Tyquan Lewis in the second, Ben Banigou in the second. It's 4 guys in the past 4 drafts that you've tried edge on day 3. Now you're adding 2 more to the mix, and only 2 see the field. You're throwing a lot of resources at. Yeah, it's a valuable position, but just like take that in the first and develop Kwity Paye, and then don't we've said, the guys at that position go early, and NFL's good at identifying them. So Odeyingbo is interesting. Without a left tackle on the roster, there were no tackles available
Eric
at that
Fisher
point.
now, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that was always the most likely scenario for them, was to get one. But I did think it was in a deep tackle class, it could have been smart for them to at least try to address it. Now, they all did come off the board. There was that run of Cosme, Radens right before they picked in the second round. That had to be a little bit disappointing for them. But
absolutely. I think that kind of forced their hands into Odeyingbo.
Yeah.
I mean, I doubt they went into this draft thinking, well, let's go 2 edges off the top. I think they were probably looking at offensive tackle, and then there was that big run.
But and then you have to factor in that third rounder. I believe the third rounder was the one that went over in the Wentz deal, right? So you got to factor that in as well. So just kind of a meh.
I'm slamming the under here. Over under 10 wins for the Colts.
Under, but it's just way under.
Yeah. I don't think so, man. Not for me.
One of the highest pumped up. That's one of the higher ones.
Yep.
I can't believe that's 10 for them.
All right, Tennessee Titans at 9.5. That's their win total right now. We really like their draft. I think the Tennessee Titans did a lot of really positive things. Obviously, grabbing Caleb Farley at 22, a PFF guy, then Dylan Radens at 53. Those 2 picks right there. Caleb Farley was the 23rd ranked player on PFF's draft board. Dylan Radens was the 32nd ranked player on PFF's draft board. And then in the round 3, back in round 3, with a compensatory selection, they grab Elijah Molden, arguably the best slot cornerback in this class at pick 100.
Not an argument. Yes.
Not arguably. The best slot cornerback in this class, according to PFF. Mike, Caleb Farley, Radens, and Elijah Molden in your top 100 picks. Those are fire. I didn't love the Monty Rice pick at 92, but still, you hit 3 of the 4 on in terms of values on PFF's board. Of course, we're going to like your draft.
Oh, yeah. And I'll say I like the Monty Rice pick also.
Okay.
This is one where I wouldn't change any of these.
Really? You wouldn't change any of these?
I mean, the Farley one, we had him a CB1. Your doctors obviously vetted him, and you drafted him there. It worked out when they did it. Same thing with Simmons. So we'll see about that. Radens, 53. Love that pick. 32nd player on our board. Rice was in that range. There were no other linebackers we had higher than Monty Rice, and then Elijah Molden. Fucking knockout. So you got to go Des Fitzpatrick before I'd start to change a pick, but that's it.
I probably would have gone corner, maybe Fatu Melifonwu ahead of Monty Rice there for the Tennessee Titans. I think that's where I would have
Another
leaned.
corner? Yeah, they already drafted Farley.
Get more corners, dude.
You got
The secondary is
Fulton.
disaster.
You got Fulton, Janoris Jenkins, Farley.
I'm still grabbing cornerbacks, baby.
I'm just saying.
I mean, come on. Let's go. All right, over under 9.5 wins for Tennessee.
Oh, man.
Someone's got to win this division. Someone's got to win this division.
They're roping me back in because I hated the rest of their offseason. But I love this draft. So I don't know what to say here.
Should the Colts be the highest projected win total in this division?
Yes. They
Really?
should be the favorites.
You mean the
the
Colts?
Titans should be the favorites. Sorry, Titans should be the favorites. I'll go over for 9.5 for the
Yeah,
Titans.
let's do over for 9.5. I like that. I was going to
Because
fade
the Texans,
this year.
you got 2 layup wins against the Texans. I guess you don't have any other layups in that division, but 2 layup wins against the Texans. You ready? You just need to win 80 or other 15 games.
I guess
which is not bad.
It's not bad. Yeah. I do think that a lot of this offseason I've been talking about fading the Tennessee Titans because of how much they lost defensively and then losing Corey Davis, losing Jonnu Smith. But now the number's 9.5. I thought this would have been like a 10.5 number because a lot of people like Titans and Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill. But man, 9.5, I start to think I like it. All right. Jacksonville Jaguars at 6.5. Their win total for 2021 is 6.5. Obviously have new quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. But you want to change that second pick. At 25, they take Travis Etienne of Clemson. Where are you changing that pick to?
Yeah, that's my least favorite one. I didn't love the Tyson Campbell one either. Obviously, my favorite one's going to be Walker Little at 45. I'm changing a lot of teams to this one because I think he was one of the steals of the draft, and it's Travis Etienne. I would have gone Greg Newsome. They obviously wanted corner. They took one 8 picks later. If you told me they got Greg Newsome and then Javonte Williams instead of Travis Etienne, Tyson Campbell, I'd be like, oof, okay, we could talk. That's a hot draft. This right now with Etienne and Campbell, not nearly as hot to me. Yeah, and Newsome, I think, has the ability, much more so than Tyson Campbell, to play slot, and could have done that from day one in your defense because you got Shaq and CJ Henderson on the outside.
I think Greg Newsome at 25 would have been sick, and then grabbing. I don't even think they needed to grab running back at 33.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. But if that was your bag, Javonte on the board at 33 would have been nice too.
What's your opinion of the Andre Cisco pick at 65?
Love Cisco, the rapper and Andre. He's fits like I said, they got Joe Cullen, new DC safeties that can do a lot of different things, and he's got some legit range. Andre Cisco, big dude, can be a blitzer in your defense as well. Can blitz from like some range too with how explosive he is. Now the ACL tear, whatever, not great, but you know I love Cisco.
All right, this is one of the worst draft grades we have. Houston Texans. This was rough. Their first pick wasn't until 67. Their draft grade was a C-. They picked up quarterback Davis Mills of Stanford at 67. You said it on the show, they lit that pick on fire. Then they trade up for Nico Collins, the wide receiver out of Michigan, at 89. Then they grab, my favorite pick here is probably Brevin Jordan at 147. But even then, like a low impact position. This Houston Texans team, there's a reason their win total is at 3.5. It's literally 3.5 next year on a 17-game schedule. It's one of the lowest win totals I've ever seen. That's absurd, and it's for good reason, though. I mean, this draft was bad. Their offseason was worse. This is a tough situation for Houston.
But then also the trade up for Nico Collins, they moved up 20 spots from 109 to 89. And they gave up they gave up a 5th rounder and then a 2022 4th rounder, which that 2022 4th rounder will be at the very top of the 4th round.
Yeah.
That will be a borderline top 100 pick. So, my God.
This is rough.
Bad trade there.
This is rough.
When you need that future pick and you need to not be drafting a quarterback when you know you're going to draft a quarterback next year in the first round. You just know. You will. That's what you're going to do. It's what's going to happen. I would put a lot of money on it right now.
Yeah. If you could have
Davis Mills can play well this year. Like well for a rookie. And you're drafting a quarterback at the top of the first round next year. You're a star. So that one I would have changed. I think top player on our board at 6'7" overall would have been Diami Brown. That's who we would have drafted because I don't give a shit about positional needs at this point if I'm the Texans.
This entire roster is a need.
I draft the top player on my draft board every single pick with how bad this team is.
Trading up for Nico Collins too, man. Like the Davis Mills and then trading up for Nico Collins. Like this is an ugly draft. We probably could have gone D here. Again, rough to see. Over under 3.5 wins.
Under.
You're going to go under 3.5. It's crazy. I guess you're right. You're right to do it, but like 17
They will
games.
sneak into something. 1 or 2.
Yeah.
They will not sneak into 4 wins.
Fair enough.
I don't care if they're playing 20 games.
Damn. This total was at 4.5 before the draft. Can you imagine betting that under?
I don't know how it went lower.
I think because people are betting into it. I mean, that's the problem. People are betting into the market, and people are like, man, under, and like, fuck. Now the market's at 3.5, which is incredible. All right. Let's now jump away from the Houston Texans and onto the AFC East, starting with the Buffalo Bills, who went double dipping along the defensive line to start here, which is interesting. They grabbed Gregory Rousseau at 30, and then they grabbed Carlos Basham Jr. at 61, feeding the defensive line. They continue in the trenches, too, after that. Spencer Brown off the tackle, Northern Iowa at 93. Tommy Doyle off the tackle out of Miami, Ohio at 161. They just continue to feed the trenches there.
Yeah, so what do we give the draft grade?
A B.
B. It was interesting. So I'm not going to hate on it for being forward thinking. Rousseau, Basham, I don't think they really start or make much of an impact year one, but they're valuable positions. They're players that, the range we would have selected both. Basham, obviously, like 42nd on our board, 61. They got him at, so we even thought value there for them. So I wouldn't hate too much on those 2 picks. The Spencer Brown one's odd to me. He's just such a big project at tackle, like so not ready to contribute on an NFL field. And I thought they could have just used, if they could have used immediate help anywhere, it was interior offensive line, guard possibly. And that's a great spot to find a guard. You can find a starting guard at 93 easily. And now, yeah, you would love if Spencer Brown could develop into a starting tackle, but man, we said project tackles are not even at that point at the high end, it doesn't matter that you're super high end traits at tackle. I think it does at edge, maybe cornerback, but super high end traits at tackle aren't going to necessarily do that much more for you than a guy who has just good traits at tackle as far as projects go. So I would have gone Quinn Miners there. Still on the board. That guy can slot in on the interior right away and start, in my opinion. So that's where I would have gone at 93. That's the one pick I would have changed.
What were some of your opinions on their later round picks? Obviously picking up Marquez Stevenson, wide receiver at Houston. These are all outside the top 200 selections, and there's some names here that are interesting. Marquez Stevenson at 203, DeMar Hamlin, the safety out of Pittsburgh at 212, Rashad Wildgoose, one of your guys, cornerback out of Wisconsin at 213, and then interior offensive lineman Jack Anderson out of Texas Tech at 236. What are your opinions on those picks?
Love some Wildgoose. I think he's one of the better value picks. Now, again, he's 115 on the PFF board, so we don't think he's going to be, if you're 115 on a draft board, we don't think you're going to be a great player. But I thought he was intriguing with his skill set and the fact that we've only seen true freshman, true sophomore year from him, which is rare from prospects. So again, we didn't get to see this next step, and I thought there was some physicality and sort of man coverage ability on his tape. Not that he's going to a place where he's going to play a lot of that.
Draft grade for the Bills, a B. Their win total right now at 10.5, the best of the AFC East. Your thoughts there?
I'm going under, man. There's too much talent in that division. It just is.
I like the Pats a lot.
Yeah.
You have the Dolphins as a dark horse Super Bowl candidate.
There's just too much talent in that division. The Jets very much ascending. You don't got two layups like any team in the South has, which the Jags, we didn't touch on there. So I'm going over 6.5 for the Jags.
Over 6.5 the Jags?
Yeah.
I like that too. All right. New England Patriots, draft grade A+, my friend. Their over-under right now is 9, and I'm leaning over, man. I think this Patriots team is good. Mac Jones at 15. They grabbed Christian Barmore after trading up to 38 at 38. Ronnie Perkins at 96. Huge fan of those first 3 picks, man. I think with the Mac Jones selection too, we didn't talk about it a ton in the draft show or even in previous podcasts, but I do think that what it really does is raise the floor of the offense and raise the floor of the football team overall. If Cam Newton does not pan out of the gate, say he gets injured or he's not playing up to expectation, you now have a non-Jared Stidham quarterback that can come in and keep this team afloat. We've talked about a ton in the past. Remember when Bill Belichick, that common stat with Tom Brady was where if he had another player coming in, he often won those games. He's won games with backups in the past like Brian Mallett and stuff like that. Jimmy G that one, or Matt Castle that one season. I do think that Mac Jones coming in really does raise the floor of this offense. And I do think that the New England Patriots, man, I do think that they're a team over 9 wins. And I don't know, maybe a dark horse to win the division. I don't know. I'm interested. Yeah,
my favorite pick, the Barmore one. There's not a pick in their top 100 I would have changed with the Mac Jones, Christian Barmore, and then Ronnie Perkins. Those are dunks, slam dunks. If we're going to dig a little deeper, pick I'd probably change instead of Ramondre Stevenson. I'd probably go someone like Chris Evans for that offense, the Michigan running back. But these are... Again, if I'm changing a fucking 4th round running back, get a great draft.
Yeah, that's right.
This is
it's an A+ grade.
Patriots needed this too. They have not been their bottom 3 drafting team over the past 5 years, and so necessary one. Love what they did, and yeah, I agree. Over 9 wins.
What are your expectations for Cam Newton in year 2 with Belichick?
I think he's gonna be better than year 1. I do think his arm is not what it once was, and then you're never going to see that guy again. But I think they've surrounded him with so much more talent. The worry is still
injuries.
I wasn't going to say injury.
Oh, really?
I was going to say it's still a bottom 3 receiving core, even with what they added. You really going to revolve our offense around 2 tight ends? I don't know. We'll see. But I think it will be improved, but they're still not going to be high-end offense.
They're going to run the football a lot too, I think. That offensive line is awesome. Michael Onwenu, Isaiah Wynn, David Andrews, Shaq Mason, Trent Brown. That's your front 5. That's a solid front 5. Arguably a top 5 offensive line in the NFL. That's how good that this offensive line could be. And I think if you run the football, power heavy, Cam Newton, I do think that this could be a really good football team or a really good rushing offense and raise the floor again. I do think defensively too, still a good defense with Bill Belichick there.
It's a tough division, man. But Pats are very much improved, obviously, from last year.
All right. Let's now jump to the Dolphins. Dolphins had a lot of top 50 picks and therefore got a lot of good players. So it's hard to hate their draft. They got a B+ draft grade. Jalen Waddle at 6, Jaylen Phillips, the Miami, Florida edge defender at 18, Javon Holland of Oregon at 36, and then Liam Eichenberg of Notre Dame at 42. And then even added another top 100 pick, Hunter Long at Boston College, the tight end there at 81. That's another pick that they added as well.
Yeah, so that's probably the one I would have changed. Now,
Hunter Long?
Yeah, I probably would have gone Tommy Tremble instead of Hunter Long. But I get why. Like, even as an inline blocker, if that's like what you want that guy to do, Tommy Tremble's better. So but I get the Hunter Long. Like, he's more kind of ticks the boxes of a traditional tight end where you have a move guy and Gesicki. So whatever you want there, that's fine. But if it's your 5th pick and you had 4 in the top 20, and that's the one I'm changing. 4 in the top 50. You had a good draft. So this is a box ticker. The only thing is they get the first rounder for Jaylen Waddle when you could have gotten Deontay Smith a little later. And Jaylen Waddle's a different type of dude than Deontay Smith, but is he worth another first round pick in next year? I agree. I don't think he was. But
I still don't understand why they did that. I don't understand why they traded back to 12 and then made that decision to trade a future first to go
reports
to 6.
came out he was their second-ranked player in the draft, apparently, and ahead of Jamar Chase in their board. Now, very easy to say things like that after the draft, and that happens a lot. And it's like, okay, sure.
There's no way. Okay.
But I don't obviously see it the same way. Not a lot of other people saw it the same way. But if they did, then that's why they trade a first round for that guy.
Man, that's freaking bananas. I do not think trading a future first to go from 12 to 6 makes a ton of sense just to get, a wide receiver ahead of Devontae Smith, whatever it was. But what's your opinion of Jaylen Phillips and where they took him?
I'm fine with that there. Obviously, we like Kwity Paye as edge 1, but Phillips, it's not that dissimilar. And he's obviously been vetted by their doctors and whatnot. And if that's the case, talent level is off the charts with that dude. He is and he hasn't played a ton of football to develop. So I think you will see him be ascending once he gets to the NFL, and a good fit for their defense. This defense now is
sick.
Electric, man. My God.
On the back end.
Yeah. And they kept investing in it, adding Javon Holland in the second round to the safety position, a guy who fits what they want to do. He can play. He can come down, cover tight end easily. That's bread and butter with him. So it just comes down to Tua. I like over 9, though. I like over 9 wins for them.
All right. I'm going to they got Justin Coleman in the slot, Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, Javon
So
Holland.
many options.
Yeah, they got Malik Hooker, who's in for a visit right now. Like, they might bring in Malik Hooker.
They signed Malik Hooker. That'd be fucking insane.
I mean, and they got Noah Benogany is like their 4th corner. Like, that's another guy that was like really young coming out of Auburn. A lot of tools that they like. Drafted him in the first round last year. Like, man, this is a defense on the back end that I can get behind, man. This is sweet. This is sweet. All right. Gonna now go to the New York Jets. New York Jets had a really good draft. They got a lot of talented players. I think the biggest question is the overall, trading those 2 third-round picks to go up and grab Elijah Vera-Tucker. What was your opinion of that move? We gave that an average grade, not because Elijah Vera-Tucker is average, very solid interior offensive line prospect, but because of trading the 2 third-round picks where they could have gotten Darisaw, Wyatt Davis, and probably another offensive lineman at those picks. Instead, they just get one. They get Elijah Vera-Tucker. I think that was the bigger concern there. But outside of that, Zach Wilson, Elijah Vera-Tucker, and Elijah Moore, and even Michael Carter at 107. All 4 of those picks are freaking fantastic.
So instead of that, they could have done, instead of one Elijah Vera-Tucker, slots in a left guard. Yeah, left guard was in need. And now you have Kai Becton and Elijah Vera-Tucker. Solid as can be. Blindside's good. And yeah, you still have options to, there's still draft picks to be had. You got 2 firsts again next year. You can draft a tackle then, guard then, whatever. But you could have turned, instead of trading up, you could have turned that pick into Christian Darisaw, Brady Christensen, and Wyatt Davis. Those 3 picks that you gave up. That immediately then solidifies that offensive line. Now, not say all those guys are elite prospects, but again, you don't need to necessarily be elite at every position along your offensive line to operate a good offense. But the players they picked, where they picked them, absolutely no problems. They got a bunch of good players and a bunch of NFL-ready players. So I'm not hating on this draft by any means. This was a very good draft for the Jets.
Yeah. I mean, I think Elijah Vera-Tucker, again, it's like the players they got were good. Like, Elijah Moore in the second was sick. Elijah Vera-Tucker, obviously a very good player. I think Michael Carter, like I said, at 107 is awesome.
Literally, though, this team, it just comes down to this fucking defense, man. Look at their secondary right now is still, you have Bless One Austin, Bryce Hall, maybe Michael Carr III as your starting corner group.
Ashton Davis, Marcus May on the back end.
Marcus May and Ashton Davis in the back end. That's solid with Lamarcus Joyner in their mix too. Solid safety group, but dude, their corners, that's the worst corner group in the NFL. It's right up there with Seahawks. They're 1-2.
But do they not get kind of, do they not get helped a ton by Robert Saleh? I mean, like him coming in, I think it's going to help this defense, the secondary specifically, a ton. Like San Francisco didn't have good corners last year either.
Yeah.
So I do think they benefit there. I talked a little bit about like how Bryce Hall is a good fit for this defense. Like, I think this is going to be interesting to see how much Robert Saleh can do to like mitigate some of the concerns they have at cornerback. Because if offensively, Zach Wilson can hit the ground running with Corey Davis, with obviously Elijah Moore, Denzel Mims, this offensive line with Mekhi Becton, Elijah Vera Tucker, like I'm starting to get interested. 6.5 wins, where are you at?
I'm still under 6.5.
Yes. I mean, I do think Zach Wilson, like I said, if he hits the ground running, that's the biggest if. It's not necessarily Corey Davis. It's not necessarily this offensive line. The biggest if is, can Zach Wilson, coming from BYU after one stellar season at BYU, can he come in and be legit? Like right out of the gate.
Yeah.
We don't even have those expectations for Trevor Lawrence. Like there's some reservations that he might struggle out of the gate because, the supporting cast maybe isn't where it should be and all that type of stuff. So I do think that Zach Wilson, while awesome at BYU, it could take some time. Yeah. It could take some time before he's like legitimately hitting his stride as a top 15, top 10 QB.
Yeah. I mean, even Burrow was far more NFL ready in our eyes, didn't quite get there.
Yeah.
Didn't quite get to that level as a rookie. So it's a rookie quarterback that you're starting, and you have to start him because you're not going to start James fucking.
I mean, they could be picking top 5 next year. I mean, there's a good chance they could be picking top 5, top 6.
You almost like want to.
And you almost want to, exactly. And you almost want to.
That'd be great.
They could very well be in the same position the Bengals were in this year. Yeah. The Bengals are at the top.
Where it's like he was good, he was fine. Mm-hmm. But now you got impact dudes.
They're the first team drafting that doesn't need a quarterback. Shouldn't take a quarterback. I think that's a very likely scenario where the Jets end up. All right, AFC West. Kansas City Chiefs. Oh man, 12 wins. I think that's the highest projected win total of any team in the NFL at 12 wins. I'm not touching it, by the way. I mean, that's just too high. It's too high to ever get close to it. Maybe you lean over because you have the 17-game season.
I'm leaning over.
Leaning over?
I'm leaning over.
Oh, man.
It's a good team.
All right. Well, what's your opinion of their draft class? Kansas City.
They got, they had one of my favorite drafts. I mean, excellent. And even
B+ draft grade according to PFF.com.
Even into day 3, though, I love what they did. Like, I thought they got guys on day 3. Noah Gray at tight end. Good route runner for a number 2. Like, can actually make an impact as a number 2 tight end. Cornell Power, wide receiver, can be
a starter.
He could be a starter. Day 1. Trey Smith at guard, Tennessee. He's 85th on our board, goes 226, obviously with the lung issues. But if those are fine, like if he can play, that's well worth. Compare him to any of the talent-wise to any of the guys that went at that range, and it's night and day. I think Creed Humphrey is an immediate starter at center. Nick Bolton's an immediate starter at linebacker. Don't always find those guys at the back end of the second round. And then Kando, my favorite, edge sort of developmental prospect in this draft. I love what they did, man. That's a hell of a draft. None of the picks I would change. None of the top 100 picks I would change.
That's high praise. And I think what they did really is approach this draft and said, hey, we're going to raise the floor of this team, and we know we're in a window, and we're going to go get guys that can make an impact now. Nick Bolton can start now. Creed Humphrey can start at guard or center now. And then you have Cornell Powell, a guy that could compete with Byron Pringle to start right now. And then you add in their first rounder, Orlando Brown Jr., who's going to come in and will likely grade higher than any of the rookie offensive tackles drafted in this class. Like, he could easily be.
Well, don't put that on Rashawn Slater, who we'll talk about next. But
okay, well, maybe we won't put that on Rashawn Slater. But still, he's going to grade higher than any of the tackles they could have picked here.
Yeah, could have picked in the back end of the first round, more than likely. You paid for the certainty.
Yeah, you definitely paid for the certainty. All right, Kansas City Chiefs over under 12. You're leaning over?
I'm leaning over.
I would rather die than place any money on a book sweating out Chiefs losses. like that would just be the worst way to spend the season. Chiefs are going to win a shitload of games every single week. You're going to be like, damn, they're favored by 10. Oh man, they're favored by 11. It's like, dude, this is going to be a tough bet to sweat. So I don't think betting the under would be good for your mental health. All right, Los Angeles Chargers, they're over under at 9. This was one of my favorite draft classes. I really like what they did at 13 and 47, grabbing Rashawn Slater at 13, and then Asante Samuel Jr. at 47. 2 of the better picks in this class. I mean, and then they had Josh Palmer at 77. I think those first 3 picks is a big reason why I love this draft.
Yep. The last team here where I will say not changing any of their picks in the top 100. That's. Oh, actually, shit! I forgot that Trey McKitty snuck into the top 100. I changed the Trey McKitty pick.
Where would you go for McKitty?
Oh, my bad. Where did I go? So at 97 overall. Man, I forgot that I would not have drafted a tight end that high in this class. There was a couple dudes that were different makers. At that point, McKitty was.
Could have gone a Fatu there.
Yeah, let me think. I probably would have gone.
Miners.
Yeah, I probably would have just added to this offensive line because it always gets hurt out in LA. At some point. So probably Miners would have been easily top offensive tackle on our offensive lineman on our board at that point.
Miners coming in too, that would have been sick. That would have been a hell of a first 4 picks. I definitely think the Trey McKitty pick is my least favorite of their top 100 by a long shot. Yeah. Like I said, over under 9 wins for the Los Angeles Chargers. Where are you leaning?
This one's tough.
9 wins, dude. Herbert year 2, 9 wins. Coaching staff change. Brandon Staley, a lot of hype. A tough division though. This is a tough division.
Derwin back. Oh, I'm punting on it because, like you said, the tough division. Aaron Rodgers goes to Broncos. You're just like, you're fucked. Like it's probably 4 losses you're taking, and it's not your fault. But you're playing the Chiefs.
At least
and
3. Like maybe you win one of those.
You're playing the Chiefs and Broncos too many times to really just. So you'd have to win 10 of your other 13 games.
That's tough.
It's tough. So I'll punt on this one.
I think the punt is fair, super fair. I think betting anything in the West could be tough. I mean, the AFC West specifically until Rodgers domino falls. All right, Denver Broncos. This is another draft that I believe we graded very highly. Oh, yeah. Denver Broncos made some power moves here. Patrick Surtain at 9, Javonte Williams at 35, and then Quinn Miners at 98. And then even just outside the top 100, Baron Browning of Ohio State, an edge at the next level at 105. We love the Jamar Johnson pick. I think Kerry Vincent, where they got him, was good. Caden Stearns. The secondary, man, they just threw the kitchen sink at adding in the secondary. It was an A- draft grade, and I think the only thing driving it down is they didn't draft Justin Fields at 9. They didn't make that upgrade at quarterback. They're sticking to Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater, a quarterback room that is as uninspiring as the freaking French novel I wrote in that turtleneck. I do think that is the biggest concern. Like the Denver Broncos, again, it's like, okay.
They did it with the Rodgers trade in mind, though.
Do you think they did?
I think so.
But don't you think it would have been better if it would have been better if even if because you don't know if
the Packers want fucking Jordan Love to be their starter. If Aaron Rodgers leaves, they don't want another quarterback.
Okay, but even if you don't trade him to Aaron Rodgers, or I guess you're saying they want Surtain if they're going to trade somebody.
Yeah, more than likely. I mean, he's probably going to be involved if they trade for Aaron Rodgers. Surtain will move. So,
man, if that's the case,
yeah.
It's interesting. I am very interested in what the fuck the Denver Broncos are going to do at quarterback. If they go get Aaron Rodgers, this whole thing changes.
Yes, but if they don't, they're still kind of like they're under 9 wins still, in my opinion, even with how good this roster is. But it's a very good roster, man. And the Jamar Johnson pick at 164, the Indiana safety, 47th on the PFF draft board. I love that pick, and I love the scheme fit there. I think he's going to be a legit impact player in the 5th round, reminiscent of like Eddie Jackson going to Vic Fangio and ripping it up. The Quinn Miners one, I love that pick, 51 on the board. Give him at 98. The biggest sort of problem area on the roster was center last year. The one pick I would change, and I love Javonte Williams, RB1 on the board. So like if you're going to draft a running back, that's who we would have drafted. But they obviously didn't know the Juwan James news, but you knew that Juwan James hadn't played in a few years at tackle. I would have gone tackle there.
Absolutely.
I would have gone Tevin Jenkins. Pick 35, you traded up. You probably don't trade up for a tackle, but like I would have traded up for Tevin Jenkins. That's who I would have wanted rather than a running back. You got Melvin Gordon on the roster.
At 35, top 40 pick, top 50 pick on a running back just does not make sense. This roster can get better. You can get better along the offensive line.
Yeah.
Man.
And so that's where I would have gone.
I do think that the Denver Broncos, there's a lot of similarities between how the Denver Broncos are building this roster and how the football team has built their roster. Mm-hmm. In that they have done a lot of positive things. They've drafted a lot of really talented players. Like this Surtain pick draws a lot of similarities to the Chase Young pick. Like really, really good player. Up there, top 10 player in this class. They grab him. They don't go quarterback. Just like how the Washington football team didn't get Tua or Herbert at number 2. They went one of these big name players. And now they're in this position, and I think the Broncos will be in a very similar position that they have a really good roster, and it's young and it's cheap, but they need that QB. They need to get aggressive with the QB. I think them and Carolina, I think, are going to be 2 teams that are going to be looking at next year and like, man, we're going to need to make a play. We're going to need to make a play, especially if Sam Darnold doesn't pan out and Drew Lock doesn't pan out. Like that's the situation they're in. So I do think that drafting well is helpful. Getting an A- draft grade is helpful, but you're not going to be legit. You're not going to be this competitor until you add that long-term option at quarterback. And I think they're going to be looking at 2022 to make that decision. All right. Now we are on to the Las Vegas Raiders, probably one of the lowest draft grades we got. Getting Alex Leatherwood was the second biggest consensus reach according to the Athletic board. It was one of the bigger reaches on the PFF board. We didn't like what they did and continue to not like what they did, specifically with their first round pick. And then they get a value on Traven Merrick at TCU. Can I say something?
Say it.
The joke about the Raiders, if you flip their draft, it would look so much better. I think the NFL podcast says it a ton. I've seen it on Twitter a handful of times. It's stupid. It doesn't make sense. It's like you could have drafted someone better than Alex Leatherwood in the first and still got Traven Merrick in the second. Flipping shit doesn't make any sense. Like I get that it's funny and like whatever, but it doesn't. It is
their MO though.
It's their MO, but still like that doesn't make any sense. Like you don't want to be flipping anything. You want to be drafting the best players at every spot. It's like, oh man, but if they drafted, Max Crosby in the first and Cleveland Ferrell in the fourth, think of how good it would be. Like, no, can you imagine if they drafted a good player in the first? Like that's what matters. Like this flipping bullshit is stupid and terrible rationale for saying you like this draft.
So Leatherwood's a good player. The pick reminds me so much of the Cleveland Ferrell pick. Now to a lesser degree, in terms of
only because it was at 4 versus 17.
Yeah. But like Cleveland Ferrell was 35th on the PFF board that year. We like Cleveland Ferrell. 35th player on your board should be a good player, or else you're not scouting.
And he has been a good player.
But he's been a solid player, yeah. But what you're passing up on by using that pick on that guy is you can miss out on elite talent, higher level talent. You missed out on Brian Burns. You missed out on Josh Allen, who have been better players over the first 2 years. If you were going to go,
I mean, you use the baseball reference a ton, but like the picks that they've made have either been singles, a double with Colton Miller. I'll call it a double.
Yeah.
A double with Colton Miller and busts.
Yep.
Like that's been where they're at. I mean, Josh Jacobs is a single. Jonathan Abrams has not played well. Trayvon Mullen has not played well. Like these other positions that they've picked where they've been bigger reaches have either been singles, the double with Colt Miller, or just absolutely no one getting on base. And like that's the problem. Like you're not the slug percentage over there is ass. Like you are not hitting triples or homers with any of these picks because you're being kind of conservative. Like they're being safe. Like was Brian Burns a riskier pick than Cleveland Ferrell? I think there was a higher bust potential with Brian Burns because of the weight and some of these other things, but maybe. But like still, like Brian Burns has been a much better pass rusher. Josh Allen has been a much better pass rusher. Like all those players that were consensus ranked over Cleveland Ferrell have been better. And Alex Leatherwood, again, this is another area where like Tevin Jenkins, Walker Little, and Christian Darrisaw were all ranked as higher tackles on our board. Tom Cable in Fairyland thought that Alex Leatherwood was better than Penei Sewell and Rashawn Slater, which again, that's being too confident in your own evaluation.
And Darrisaw on pretty much every board above Leatherwood. Just like pretty much everyone saw him as the superior tackle at that point in the draft. We saw him much more so. So that's why that's where we would have gone. That's the pick I would have switched. Now, obviously love the Merrick pick at 43. I don't even hate the Malcolm Koonce pick at 79. He's an interesting dude. He's got kind of an NFL body, interesting kind of sub-package rusher. That level of competition is probably his biggest concern. Like I think he can still win in the NFL. 79 just a little rich. Diablo pick and the safety load up that they did with him. Now he's probably gonna play linebacker Diablo, but him, Gillespie, Merrick, when you got multiple dudes on the roster already is interesting.
They cut Jeff Heath.
Good. But they're just it's just the every year with them. It's just, they don't have the track record to back up their off the wall plays. Like Bill Belichick makes a play and everyone's like, hope they're, Belichick outsmarting the league because it's got a track record built up.
Exactly.
The Raiders make these plays and we're like, what the hell are they doing again? Because their track record's been
bad. And I do think that some people rationalize some of the decisions they've made because they've hit these singles. And I think it's important to reset expectations.
The guys are starting because your rest of your roster's poop. Sorry.
Yeah, that's another reason too. It's like Alex Leatherwood's going to start tackle this year. Yeah, because your other option is to start like literally Brandon Parker, who has been garbage since you traded all the way up to the first pick of the third round for him. And I think some Raiders fans and some even analysts like rationalize some of these picks because they're hitting singles and one double with Colt Miller. But it's like, I'll tell you right now, you don't win a Super Bowl hitting singles, man. Like you need to go chase the moon, especially here's the take, especially when you're paying a quarterback on that second contract in Derek Carr. Like you need to hit on valuable positions like on the high end.
So Browns have had the most draft capital the past 5 years. Raiders have had the second most. The Browns have the best roster in the NFL, like I just said on paper, if not second best. Raiders have
bottom five.
That's
this defense brutal. Is legit like a bottom three defense.
If anything other than that, like that should tell you all you need to know about how the fuck they.
And while we're on the Raiders, let's have a take here. They signed Casey Hayward. I don't know if you saw that. They signed Casey Hayward.
Great signing.
And he's going to compete to start. If he starts and you end up having to hinder the development of Damon Arnett, a top 20 pick, or Trayvon Mullen, who I believe was a top 40 pick, what are we doing? What are we doing with bringing these guys in? It's like you end up. I think Steve brings this up.
The development.
A lot.
I mean, dude, Arnett's 25. Like that dude should be good. You know?
Well, I'm saying, but he's not good yet.
Yeah,
I mean, he's gonna have to develop. I mean, there's no other option.
Yeah.
Like you drafted him to be better, and he's not. So you're gonna have to develop him. But Steve brings this up a lot. Like they end up doing a lot of things. Like the Raiders have done a lot of things where they'll cut or release guys and then bring in younger talent, but then bring in veteran talent to compete with them and hinder a lot of the development for these guys. Like play them out of position, like they did with LaMarcus Joyner, Jonathan Abrams. Like they've done a lot of things. They've moved people around to a point where this is a very tough ran organization. And to no surprise, over the past decade, they have the 31st in scoring, I think 32nd in win percentage. Like they have not been good. Like you try and rationalize some of these moves, and it's just been insane.
It comes back to kind of Gruden's MO of just not having patience.
Yes.
Of just as soon as something kind of goes south one way or the other,
we're out. We're going to get into the guys. Yeah.
New direction.
Very true.
It's just like you gotta have an overarching vision that you're committed to, and there's been none of that.
And the one thing they've been patient on has been arguably their worst decision, and that's Derek Carr. Like I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I'm gonna look at the camera. Derek Carr is arguably the best player on this football team. Darren Waller probably the best if you ignore positional value. He's the best player on this football team. Why you trade him is for that reason. Like you cannot win with Derek Carr as your best player on your football team, because at his best, he's a top 8 quarterback in the NFL. At his best, top 8, fringe top 8 to top 12. And this roster, because of the impatience of John Gruden and the ineptitude of some of these other decisions that they've made, they've really struggled to build around Derek Carr. And now, despite having the second most draft capital and a Derek Carr that at his best is a top 8 quarterback, have utterly failed because they haven't been able to build around him.
Well, I disagree. I think you could win a Super Bowl with Derek Carr. You just have to be better than they've been.
Yeah, but they're not going to. This roster's not going to be good for 2 or 3 years.
That's not then.
No, they should have stuck to Derek Carr like they did 3 years ago. And then with the second most draft capital in the NFL, built a roster similar to Cleveland's.
Just built it better. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Exactly. Like they had Derek Carr in 2017. Yeah. They paid him that money. And they should have built up a roster similar to Cleveland's so they could be competing for a Super Bowl now. They haven't. And now you need to cut ties because this roster is not going to be good enough in the next 2 years, 3 years.
Well, it's the decision makers. It's like you can't pin that on Derek Carr.
No, I'm not pinning that on Derek Carr. Like I said, I think he's the best player on this team.
But it's like, why move on from Derek Carr and then let those same decision makers try to then have a second
so if
chance
you move on from Derek Carr, you
know?
need to clean the whole thing out. Like this thing needs to be blown up. You know that it's game over season. I mean, they've been rebuilding every year since like 2002. Like this thing needs to be cleaned the fuck up because it's been a disaster. I mean, the biggest draft they ever had was by a guy who was fired from them, Reggie McKenzie in 2014. Khalil Mack, Derek Carr, Gabe Jackson, all in that draft. Amari Cooper the following year.
Rocked it.
And then they traded both those guys away.
And now none of them are there.
I mean, it's again, I don't know, man. I don't know.
The fact that none of those guys are there still is incredible to me. Those were your 4 best players. I guess Derek Carr's still there.
Derek Carr's still there.
But the rest were none of them are there now.
It's tough to see. I mean, Reggie McKenzie built a legitimate, like, competitive-ass roster where if Derek Carr didn't get hurt in 2016, they're winning, I think, multiple playoff games that year. They were dominant. They were going to win, like, 11, 12 games that year. Best offensive line in football, Kelechi Osemele, Rodney Hudson, Gabe Jackson, Donald Penn, Latavius Murray. I mean, Michael Crabtree, Amari Cooper, Derek Carr. Defensively, they weren't good, but their offense was solid.
Yeah.
And then they blow everything up, like literally take a flamethrower to everything in every year after that. And now it's been a disaster. You hate to see it. All right. Well, enough about the Raiders. Gave that class a C grade. Jumping now to, that was the last one. I'm glad we finished there. That was the last of the AFC. I mean, because we get on this podcast, we get on this podcast 2 or 3 times a week and talk about roster building all the time, drafting talent, all that stuff. The Las Vegas Raiders had objectively been the worst. They've been the worst over the past 5-10 years.
Well, yeah, 5 or so. Like
5 or so, maybe 3 to 5. They've been the worst over the past 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, it's just been because they had so much to work with is the problem.
Yeah, second most draft capital.
So much, and you did there. I mean, how many teams? Who has less hope than them? Just of like really competing for a Super Bowl in coming years.
They're a bottom 5 team in terms of making the playoffs, according to Vegas books.
Yeah.
They're plus 1,600 to win this division.
And now all that draft capital is gone. Like, you don't have future picks. Like, you haven't loaded up on that. You're kind of just like in that middle zone where you're not going to have any way of really adding a nice amount of capital.
And they're probably still going to win like 7-8 games next year.
Yeah.
And like going to continue to be in this purgatory of garbage because, I mean, man, it's tough to see. Tough to see. All right. Well, not to end on a bad note, this has been fun. Draft grades and a season preview for all AFC teams. Where are you at? Over under 7 wins for the Raiders? I'd lean the over, but not by much.
No, I'd lean the under if Rodgers is in that division.
Okay.
That's a tough.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I mean, I think they sneak out 8 wins. Like, they go 8-9. They go 8-9 or 9-8.
6-11.
Huh?
6-11.
6-11? Okay, fair enough. All right, well, that's going to do it for the AFC version of this one. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. This has been a ton of fun, man. Going by every team was pretty sweet. In the future, man, we're going to have an update on summer plans. Everyone's been asking me. I got a ton of DMs. People are like, man, what are you guys doing this summer? 2-4 drafts in the summer. You guys got to do something cool. I got some plans, man. We got some really, really cool things coming up for the summer on 2-4 drafts. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe. We're going to detail that. We're going to detail our listeners, man. I think, Mike, we got to come on this podcast and tell people, hey, this is what we're going to do. And you're going to freaking love it. You know, some people take breaks in the summer. You'll see. You'll see what we got coming down the pipeline. Until next time, Austin Gayle, producer Mike Quinn, producer David Sofaro, Mike Renner, 2-4 drafts.